Hey everybody, I'm doing something a little bit different today, and I'm so glad you joined me. I am just filming in my office. We'll see how this goes. I'd love to hear what you think of it. Drop me a comment, let me know. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about the Florida as-is residential sales and purchase contract and what that means for buyers and sellers in terms of inspections. So in many other states and in Florida, we used to use a contract, and we still can. This contract can still be used, but at least in our area of Florida, most properties are sold as is, and we're asked to use the as is FAR contract, which is Florida Association of Realtors, Florida Bar. That's the contract that we use, and it says right at the top, as is. And I think that's where maybe some of the confusion rolls in. So under the old contract, we used to write in a dollar amount of repairs. The seller had to repair that dollar amount of items. So if you wrote in 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever you wrote in, the seller was obligated to repair items up to that dollar amount. And where that sort of led to a problem, in my opinion, was that when you were working with a seller and an offer came in, and let's say the offer contained a $5,000 request for repairs, as not request, but a binding in the contract, a $5,000 repair clause, the seller would say, well, I'm going to fix $5,000 worth of items, so I'm going to factor that into my negotiation on the contract price. Now, let's say the inspection happens and there's only $1,000 worth of repairs. The seller has factored in $5,000, but it didn't cost him $5,000. He sort of came out $4,000 ahead, and the buyer came out $4,000 behind because the seller factored that in even though it wasn't necessary. Now, let's say there were $10,000 worth of repairs and you only negotiated for $5,000. Again, the buyer sort of comes out not in the best position. So over time, everyone started using the as-is contract. It has sort of become the standard contract that we use. So what does as-is mean? It means the buyer is writing the offer and negotiating based on the property and its as-is condition. The seller is also selling and negotiating on the property and its as-is condition. Now, Florida has a duty to disclose law, so the seller should have disclosed all known defects. The buyer should have had access to that document when they wrote their offer. Does that always occur? No, sometimes that document is not filled out yet, and the buyer is operating completely on what they can see. Or sometimes there are items not included on there because maybe the seller didn't know about them. For example, maybe they didn't realize there was a leak under the kitchen sink, or there were missing roof tiles, or there was unsafe electric in the attic. These things are things the seller couldn't disclose. The buyer wasn't aware of them when they negotiated the price. You see where I'm going with this, I hope. So both parties negotiate. They negotiate to a price, and then on to inspections. The inspector comes in and says, oh, you have a leak under the sink. Oh, you have missing roof tiles. Oh, you have unsafe electric in the attic, and on and on and on. Whatever they find is going to be in that inspection report. So then the buyer comes back and says, hey, there's all these items that I wasn't aware of. I couldn't see them. They weren't disclosed to me. I wasn't aware of these items. So now I need to either adjust the price, or I want you to fix those things, or some combination. Maybe I want you to fix some things. Maybe I want an adjustment on price for the others. And the seller says, well, it's an as-is contract. I don't have to do anything. Well, Mr. Seller, you're right. You don't have to do anything. But the buyer also has, under that as-is contract, the right to cancel their contract at their sole discretion. So if you don't do anything, chances are the buyer will cancel. Now, a couple of years ago, when things were crazy, buyers just went forward because they were lucky to even get a contract on a home. There were so many offers coming in, prices were going up. Buyers oftentimes would go forward anyway. Not so much today. So it is in the best interest of the seller to say, let me look at these things and see what's reasonable, and let's see if we can negotiate to an agreement that is satisfactory to both buyer and seller. And if a seller comes back and says, I won't do anything, chances are that buyer is going to cancel and move on because there are other properties out there that meet their needs. Okay. So as a seller, don't think that as is truly means as is. As is means the buyer could see it. They shouldn't be coming back and saying, oh, the carpet is stained in the primary bedroom, because it was obvious it's a large stain. When they walked through, they saw the property. They saw that the carpet was stained. They should have factored that into their offer. They shouldn't be coming back. And also that's really a cosmetic issue. But anyway, they shouldn't be coming back asking for things that they could easily see. But that doesn't mean that they won't, and it doesn't mean that they're not allowed to. So as a seller, when you're negotiating, you should understand that the buyer is probably going to come back with some requests. And as a buyer, you, in my opinion, should be understanding if the house is not brand new, it's going to have some little things. Hopefully, we're not asking for the little things. We factored that in when we made our offer. We're going to have to fix some little things because it's not a brand new home. It's been lived in. There's some things we might find that are wrong. But these things that are in the inspection report that we weren't aware of, that we couldn't see, that we didn't know about, they weren't disclosed to us, we're going to come back and ask for either a concession in terms of price, seller contribution towards our closing costs, or maybe we're going to ask for repairs or some combination of all these things. We're going to be asking for that and come back and ask the seller, and then we're going to negotiate again, a separate negotiation from the original one that got us under contract. All right, so hopefully this helps in understanding the Florida as-is contract, helps to keep parties not so upset with each other, and know that you're both working towards the same goal, which is to have the buyer successfully purchase the home. Okay? If you have any questions, send me a message. My contact information is hopefully linked below. Depends what platform you're watching this on. And I appreciate y'all tuning in. I would love to help if you're looking to buy or sell real estate on the Space Coast of Florida. And my information is here, and I'll talk to y'all later. Cheers.